Hey everyone, welcome back to BrowncoatNerd. Today we have another in the Should You Buy series. This time we will be looking at the Spanish CETME L, specifically the Markle Mar build of these. Now this one looks a little bit different than what they typically come as. Originally this had a shorter length handguard on it and the furniture was all black. I do have an LC, which is the collapsible stock version here. So is that style handguard just with black furniture on there. So, I went ahead and kind of left it in this configuration to give you guys an idea of what you can kind of do with these because there's not a whole bunch as far as the aftermarket world to add on or modify these. So what is the Spanish CETME L? It is the rifle that they use to replace their CETME C with. They're switching from 7.62 NATO over to 5.56 NATO, and this was the rifle that they used. Now, this is apparently the only roller delayed designed rifle from the ground up for 5.56. It's also kind of the last roller delay design that was ever widely produced and issued to a standing army. So it does have a few unique characteristics in the roller delay world. A lot of people will think this is simply just kind of a Spanish version of the HK, 93 or 33 5.56 rifles. And those themselves are really just kind of shortened down versions of the CETME C. And this is not that at all. This has a recoil spring housed in the buttstock, which is part of the reason it has a very, very soft recoil impulse. So it is its own standalone design. Now, while we're on that real quick, the LC with the collapsible stock that I just had out here, that one obviously has a collapsible stock, so it can't have the recoil spring in the buttstock. That is much more like the traditional CETME C or the HK93 variants with the recoil spring, staying in the receiver body and up above the bolt carrier rather than directly behind it. So right there, I see a lot of people talking about putting the collapsible stock on the CETME L, and those are not really interchangeable. It has a completely different bolt carrier, spring location. It will physically bolt up to the receiver. They use the same receiver, but the internals are different. So just know that. But Spain started they started using it in the mid 80s, and used it up to the late 90s. Did not have a very long life with them. Because they did not have a great experience with them. The quality control was kind of notoriously bad on these. And from what I've read, that specifically goes towards the military issued CETME Ls. Apparently, the ones that the Guardia de Civil, or however you pronounce that, and the police and different branches that purchase these, they paid per gun, per unit, which I guess was more, whereas the military was doing like a bulk contract purchase. And so CETME was making less per dollar per gun. And so the quality control in the military ones was just god awful. And then they had other issues to add on to that. Like the ammunition they were using was Spanish made ammunition, and apparently it was extremely dirty ammunition. So that just kind of helped gunk up the works of everything. And then the magazines that they used are a kind of Stenag style magazine. I've got one right here. It's more or less apparently a copy of the FNC magazine. The feelets here are a little bit different. The follower is different. This follower does not have a spot to catch the bolt hold open latch, because this does not have a last round bolt hold open. Some people will use these CETME L mags in their ARs, and say they work just fine. Other people say that won't even fit in the receiver. And also, mind you, it won't hold that bolt open on the last round. But these just really weren't the best mags made. They're steel. Like I said, they're very much like a Stenag design. As you can see, the floor plate here is a different setup than what you would find on a Stenag. This also probably would not help with keeping debris and sand out of these magazines. And apparently these magazines were just made very out of spec from one another. I do have some that fit in here a little bit tighter than others. So this was another kind of issue that these CETME Ls would have. Let's go ahead and pop this in there. And I've also seen some people saying that they would have issues with the chrome lined barrels with the chrome lining actually flaking off after only a few hundred or 1,000 rounds. So they didn't have the best experience with it. Eventually this would be replaced in 2000 with the HK G36. So it's kind of funny they eventually did end up going with an HK design. So Spain had pretty much a horrible experience with these and were eager to get rid of them. So that right there might make you go, okay, well, why do I want one if Spain had such a horrible issue? Well, these were parts kits. Markle Mar purchased 10,000 parts kits. And of those, they said they were going to make 5,000 to 8,000 CETME Ls. I think they are probably going to end up making in the higher end of that number. They'll probably make around 8,000 of these CETME Ls. And then they also did have some sub variants in there, like the LC and LV. But I'm not going to get into that. We're just going to be talking about the standard L version today. So, like I said, it is 5.56. It's a roller delay, so it's very soft recoil. They will either come with a 3-prong. Sorry, as I hit the mic. They'll either come with a 3-prong flash hider or a full bird cage. The 3-prong was the early on. Later, they switched to the full bird cage. This actually came with a full bird cage, and I switched it over to a 3-prong just because I kind of felt like it gave it more of a unique look. And these Markle Mar builds do use the original flash hiders. They just refinish them. All the surplus parts that Markle Mar use, they refinish on these. Up front here, in the background, we got an angry dog. We have a bipod bayonet, or excuse me, let me slow down there. A bipod lug. So you can use the standard CETME C bipod on these, and that is the only part that is interchangeable between the CETME C and the CETME L. The furniture, bayonet, none of that is interchangeable. There's also a little ring on here. I believe this was also used as a grenade, rifled grenade launcher. So that was probably your little retention spring. Then as you can see up here, we do have a bayonet lug. And the CETME L, like I said, does have its own bayonet. However, the scabbards on these are interchangeable with the C. As you can see, this one is black as it is a navy bayonet. And they attach above the barrel like the traditional CETME C. And that's how that looks there. So I hit the microphone again. And these bayonets can be found. The last time I looked online, I've got some videos on these bayonets as well. There's one video. But the price is just absolutely all over the place on those bayonets. So, yeah, the price shop on those a little bit if you want to get one. Let's get back to the front here. Then the front sight post this is one of the first things we'll go over that Markle Mar actually modified on this. They retapped this front sight post for a AR-15 style front sight post. I do not know if they modified the height of the post itself. But originally these CETME Ls, there's 4 different sizes on the front sight post. And pretty much all but the thinnest was the only decent one. They were all pretty wide and fat. So Markle Mar just went ahead and retapped these to take an AR-15 one so you don't have to worry about getting stuck with one with the very wide front sight post. We have a very HK or CETME C-esque clip style sling attachment here. This does swivel a little bit. And then we have a side charging non-reciprocating handle there. You'll see it's got little bits of plastic on it. Once again, this is Markle Mar new product. And then that will match the color of your furniture. So if you get a green one, that will be green. Markle Mar also gave these a Cerakote Elite finish. As you can see here, I've got quite a few rounds to this one. Pretty much all the shells are staying in that one little confined spot. I'm really surprised that's not a bigger spot. But a lot of people will tape these up so they don't get that nick. To me, that's just the beauty mark. Markle Mar doesn't make an optional pick rail. These did not originally come with the pick rail. If you're going to get one of these, I highly recommend that you go ahead and get one with the pick rail. The rear sight is a fairly simple flip up peep sight. We have 200 and 400 meters. You may notice these ones are color filled on mine. Originally, they would be color filled, but on these, when Markle Mar refinished them, they did not bother to color fill them. But you can do that yourself if you want to. Once again, originally on these, the peep only changed in elevation when you're switching between 200 and 400. The hole itself was rather small, so Markle Mar went ahead and opened up the 200 meter peep sight to make it a little bit bigger, and I do think that's a very nice touch that they did, because it is a very, very fine hole. And then the windage adjustment here, this is also another new US made piece. According to Markle Mar, these were pretty fragile and tended to break, so once again, just to simplify any issues with that, they went ahead and made a newer, more durable version of that. Now, the CETME Ls did not have any style of clamp-on mount. Once again, I see a lot of people talking about getting an HK mount and putting it on one of these. That's just not going to work. The receivers are completely different. The CETME L never had a HK style clamp-on mount. It did have a weird, very, very limited used clamp-on mount for the rear sight. You got this little bar here and this little indentation here, and you kind of clamp around it. They did not use that very much, and as a matter of fact, I've noticed that not all of these CETME Ls have this little divot there, and I predict that CETME just quit putting that in there. Didn't bother milling that out because they realized that those scope mounts just weren't really widely used, and from what I understand, they just weren't very good. So the Ls did have their own version of clamp-on scope mount, but you're just not going to find one of those in the US. There might be some people out there that try to 3D print them, but just get the rail. Much better, much more universal. You're going to be much better off. Markle Mar also did make all new furniture for these. I even had a video on that comparing it to the original furniture. And other than the material and the color, I mean, it is like a 99% almost perfect match for how the original furniture was. Once again, the color will kind of vary depending on what color you get. And another thing on the CETME Ls, if you want to get surplus furniture, just know it's not going to match. Those furniture sets, and even if you look at the old pictures, I mean, the handguard, pistol grip, buttstock, they're all, it's 50 shades of green. It's all over the place. So the newer Markle Mar stuff also matches, so that is nice. Another thing that Markle Mar did, and this is the big improvement for these, is they replaced literally every single spring, and that's not an exaggeration. They replaced every single spring on the CETME L, and a lot of those springs, they changed the tension or the weight of the spring, so they've kind of retuned it. So almost in the way, especially with this pick rail on top, this is almost like a CETME L A1, if you will. So any concern you would have over buying one of these due to the issues that Spain had, Markle Mar has not only fixed those issues, but they've actually have improved the gun quite a bit. And then, of course, the welds on this are way better than what they originally would have come with. Markle Mar does have a YouTube video. They have a robotic arm laser welder that does these. One example of that is the original ones. You would actually see a little gap here on the front where you could see the front trunnion through, on the outside. But Markle Mar went ahead and completely covered up that weld. I believe they also said something about if you're going to suppress one of these, that can be a spot for some kind of gas blowback. So they also just wanted to go ahead and take care of that in case that's something you wanted to do. I also imagine that people, because the original HKs were like that as well. And I've even seen some people knocking HK, being like, oh, look at these horrible weld jobs. You can see the front trunnion. Well, that's just how they were made. So I think he also just kind of did that to make it look better quality, even though it's not necessarily something that's needed. So the welds are much better on this than what they would have been on the original CETME Ls. So the other two big issues I see brought up a bunch are ammunition and magazine compatibility. But before I get to that, I do want to go ahead and address the Demolition Ranch video, which is really unfortunate. I used to watch his videos. You don't get a bunch of information about whatever gun he is showcasing. But if you're bored, it is kind of fun to see, how deep a Lego head will penetrate into a block of clay or something like that. He does weird stuff like that for the most part. He has a video, I think it's labeled the worst gun in my collection or something along those lines. But it's a Markle Mar CETME L. And at first I was really excited, but then I saw the title, I was like, okay, he's just trolling. He's going to talk about how fun this gun is to shoot. And no, he wasn't. I was shocked. But he was having major issues with his gun. It kept jamming. And the thing that any CETME L owner knows is that these come with a little yellow flyer. And Markle Mar says you may have issues breaking this in. To ensure you don't have issues, they highly recommend using 62 grain ammunition, or 62 or 65, somewhere in there. But to use that for break-in, and then after that you should be good to use whatever you want. Now I will say real quick on my CETME LC, breaking that in, I had a mixture of 55 and 62 grain ammo, and I've literally had no issues with it. Still, even now, I've not had a single hiccup. I have not shot that one nearly as much as I have this L right here. When I first took this out, I'll cover the 2 weekends that I first took this out. I think I had 2 hiccups the first weekend out of like 80 rounds. And then the second weekend, I think I had like 1 more hiccup, maybe out of 60 or 80 rounds. You'd have to go back and watch the video. I didn't have a whole bunch of ammo, but I was dying to shoot it. But since then, I've taken this out a whole bunch. And it's really has shot flawlessly, and I will go ahead and admit, except for one time. And I don't know what was going on. I brought my nephew out with me to the shooting range, and this thing just kept jamming on him. I would switch off with him using the same mag that he was using, and then I'd put in a mag and shoot it, and it'd be fine, and then he would pick it up, and after like 3 rounds it would jam. I have no clue what it was. It was like he was cursed. But I will say, after that incident, and like I said, it had been shooting flawlessly for me after the initial break-in, and I'm still probably under 1,000 rounds, maybe close to 1,000. But after that incident, I did go to an outdoor range with a buddy of mine, and I had a whole bunch of green tip as well as some other cheap steel case 223 ammo lying around. And I just kind of wanted to really kind of send this thing through the work. So I was literally just like mag dumping one mag after another. And I will say this handguard finally did just heat up a little bit on me. It wasn't too hot. I talked about with these original handguards how a lot of people say they suck because they don't dissipate heat as well. And that's probably true, but for regular shooting it wasn't an issue. Until I started doing mag dump after mag dump. And it did start to get a little warm, oddly enough, like up here. And that's not a gas block. This isn't gas operated. So, but it wasn't too bad. Anyways, when I took it out then, I had, once again, no issues whatsoever. So, sorry, Christian, I think you're just cursed. So this has been, for the most part, a very reliable gun for me. And that's with shooting, weaker 223 ammo. So after that initial break-in period, you really shouldn't have any issues. But going to the Demolition Ranch video, when I saw that immediately, I was like, well, what ammo is he shooting? And I do know that Markle Mar actually reached out to Demo Ranch to try to contact him. And Markle Mar said that, they also wanted to know what kind of ammo they were using and wanted to offer, for him to send in the gun and have them give it a full look over, make sure everything was running right. And apparently his agent or manager, whoever, contacted Markle Mar, and it said, well, they shot a little bit of green tip, but for the most part it was PMC bronze. And Markle Mar stated that's an ammunition known to be low in powder charge. I don't know, but so Markle Mar said, please have him shoot it with 62 grain ammo to break it in, and if he wants, he can send it in to us, and we'll be more than happy to look over it. And then I guess they just never heard anything back, and I have since not seen a video put up by him addressing that. So that's kind of unfortunate, because Markle Mar is a family-run business, and he kind of kicked him in the nuts there and didn't give him a chance to, make the issue right. And really, I think what the issue was is he was just, for that initial break-in period, not using the best ammo. So that's very unfortunate, and I've said in other videos going over the L, a lot of times online I've seen people, if they do have an issue, they just got one, they're having all kinds of jams, they're asking people advice, what should I do? People recommend use, green tip or 62 grain or whatever. And then, for the most part, I have seen people actually come back to those comments and give us an update. And it seems like I've never seen anyone be like, oh, that didn't do anything. Like, anyone that's bothered to do a follow-up has been like, yeah, it runs like a top now. So, just know, during the break-in, it might be a little picky on ammo. And I've also seen a lot of people comment saying, I broke mine in with cheap Tula, 223 and didn't have any issues. So, it might not even be an issue for you at all. So the ammo pickiness, it's really not picky with ammo. Just for that initial break-in period, it might be. And then on to the mags. People get so upset because these do not take Magpul mags. And while, yes, for my ARs, I have some Magpul mags. Ow, as I kick a table full of mags. But those aren't the only mags I use. I had plenty of Stenag mags before I even purchased this. So you do have the options of getting the original CETME L mags if you want to go that route, but like I said, they're not the best in quality control. Shooting these, I haven't had any issues other than, I believe, the 12 rounder. The first time I used it, actually over inserted, and I just had to push it down a little bit in the mag weld to lock it into place. And real quick too, another thing, people talk about how this mag weld is very tight. Through use, it will loosen up a little bit, and I think that's just kind of wearing away some of the Cerakote on the inside and the key spots. Also, people talk about how the mag release button is very stiff, and it is. Once again, that will lighten up a little bit with use, but it's never going to be like an AR-15 mag release button. It is always going to be a little stiff. If you watch any of the old training videos that the Spanish Army has while they're using these, they do this really weird like palm slap thing on there. It's bizarre, and I don't understand it. And then they rip the magazines out too. So when you get one of these, I would say just shoot it. Try to get it broken before you do anything. But if this mag button does still continue to be very, very stiff, as you can see, it's kind of a flat head there. Just back that out like a quarter of a turn. And that should loosen it up some. But before you do that, I highly recommend just shooting it. This one was pretty stiff. It lightened up a bunch. My LC was very stiff to the point where I had to push in the mag release button to get a mag inserted because I felt like it was going to break or something if I didn't. And that has loosened up quite a bit. Not as much as this, but once again, like I said, I haven't got the round count in the LC compared to the L. Excuse me. Oh, had some barbecue earlier, a little gassy. So just know that this will open up a little bit through use. Don't freak out about that. Like I said, they also do have these little 12-round CETME L mags. You'll see sometimes people refer to a CETME L mag as a 10-round. They are referring to these. There's no actual 10-round mags out there. They are quote-unquote 12. But I've seen some people just be like, I can't get more than 10 or 11 rounds in them. Once again, not the best quality magazine. As you can see, this one I have not tested yet, but I did get one of those Magpul anti-tilt followers. You do have to do a little bit of Dremel work to get it to fit in these. But I haven't actually tested this out. And like I said, these aren't the best mags anyways. I do kind of like using this one, though, for some reason. It's just, well, let's go ahead and put it in there. Another thing on inserting the mags. You can see there, it kind of pushing in a little bit. Did that over travel? I think it did. Yep, just a little bit. And that's the only mag I've ever had that issue with. But that's how the 12-round mag looks in there. But once again, a lot of times, especially in YouTube videos, I see someone going out and test firing one of these, and they just, they're slapping the hell out of those mags, trying to get them inserted with the bolt closed. And much like on the HK93s, it is way easier to insert your mag and get it locked in there if you have that bolt locked back in the open position. So another little tip there, lock that bolt back if you want easy mag insertion. It can be done with the bolt closed, but you're going to have to slap the holy living hell out of it. So just a little tip there for you. So there's the 12-round mag. Now these do come, this is another thing we should jump on. The Gen 1s came with an OK Industries mag, and then the Gen 2s came with a Duramag by C Products. And I've seen a lot of people say that those actually come out of the same warehouse, but yeah, whatever. So the Gen 1, Gen 2s, the differences, other than the mag it comes with, the Gen 1s appear to all come in a cardboard box with a very nice foam cutout for these. It's probably the nicest cardboard box I've gotten a gun in. And then the Gen 2s, they actually come in a soft, like, carry case with lots of pockets, which is pretty nice. The Gen 1, the owner's manual says 1.0. And the Gen 2, the owner's manual says, I can't remember if it says like 1.5 or 2.0, but it's not 1.0. So they do change the owner's manual. And then Markle Mar. So originally with these, Markle Mar went ahead and opened up these mag wells some to better accept the Stenag mags. Because like I said, they're very close. The CETME L mag and the Stenag mag are very close, but they're slightly different. So to begin with, Markle Mar went ahead and tweaked this mag well a little bit to work with the Stenag mags. Now, some Gen 1 owners have said that the original CETME L mags will not fit in their Gen 1s. Mine, like I said, they fit. There are some that are very stiff. I've got 3 30 round mags and 2 10 round mags. It's one of the 30 round mags that's really stiff going in there. But they do seem to fit and they function. So for the Gen 2, they tweaked this a little bit more, once again to work with a wider variety of Stenag mags, and also as a result, the CETME L original mags seem to all work in the Gen 2s. But once again, like if you have an original mag and it doesn't fit in your CETME L, you're not missing out on much. I do get the wanting to have that since it's original. That's why I have them. But if it doesn't work, it's not a huge loss. They are kind of crummy mags. But a lot of people say they work just fine for them. And then the big difference between the Gen 1 and the Gen 2 on the bolt carrier, and as you notice, this one is out. I was going to clean this, and then decided to do this video, mostly because I realized I needed a video for this Friday. And then instead of putting this bolt in, because one of the downfalls of these, they're not hard to clean. Well, that's not the right word to use. They're not technically complicated to clean, but they're a pain in the butt. Basically, once you get the bolt out, you cannot put it back in until you put the trigger pack, or until you take the trigger pack out. The original CETME Ls weren't like that. It's because these are semi-auto. The hammer actually sits a little bit higher than originally, and that gets in the way of the bolt. So up in these ridges here, and this is the Gen 1, it's untouched. But the Gen 2s, which is what my LC is, they actually have little, it looks like lightning cuts. And that's to accept Stenag mags where the feed lips stick up a little bit higher. Because even though the CETME L mags are made out of spec from one another, the Stenag mags are made out of spec from one another as well. Basically, if you get an OK Industries, C Products, Colt, Bushnell, any of those mags, Stenag mags, are going to work. You're kind of rolling the dice when you're buying some of the kind of off-brand American-made or the Korean-made mags. But some of those very well can work. So, like I said, the big difference in the Gen 2 is those little cuts in the bolt carrier. And if you're looking at buying a CETME L, it's in a gun shop, you don't know if it's a Gen 1 or a Gen 2, or let's say it is a Gen 1, and you're like, oh, well, I don't want to get it because it doesn't have those cuts in there. This one, the Gen 1, uses a wide variety of Stenag mags. I do have one curved 20 round Korean mag that the bolt will not close on this one, but it will close on my LC, which is a Gen 2. So yes, it is wider variety, but it's not like it's really opening up your doors there. Secondly, it's not a big deal because if you contact Markle Mar, you can send in your bolt carrier and they will cut in those relief cuts and then send it back to you. All you got to do is pay the shipping. They won't even charge you for upgrading the bolt carrier. You just cover the shipping cost. So the biggest improvement between the Gen 1 and the Gen 2 is something that Markle Mar will upgrade you free of charge. So no sweat there. It's figuring out the one that you're buying, if it's a Gen 1 or a Gen 2, it's really not that big of a deal. So there's the Gen 1 and Gen 2 out of the way. So like I said, any of your Stenag mags will work. What I like to do is go to the local surplus store or flea market and just find an old GI mag. Now, unfortunately, I used to be able to get these for like $5 to $15. And lately now they're more like 15 to 25 bucks. When you can get like a C Products, you know, one of these mags, I think you can get these for like $8, and these are good and brand new. And yes, I got bored and got it to my wife's fingernail polish and color filled that. I actually kind of think it looks good. Anywho, so I'll buy these. These will always seem to work in mine no matter what. This particular one is a Colt. And like I said, some people say these are actually just the OK Industries. It's from 2009. But these come in nice and worn, and typically what I'll do is I'll just upgrade the follower. This one has a yellow Magpul anti-tilt follower. I don't even change out the spring. And then, like I said, these look very nice as well. I love that worn look to them. And then, of course, I do have a curved 20 round mag that does work. I think it's an old C Products mag. There's that. This one, I love the way it looks, and this one functions just fine in there. And then, of course, you have the original style 20 round mags. This is a Bushnell, or not Bushnell, my gosh, Browning. This is a, not Browning. Why am I having difficulty? Brownells. It is a Brownells mag. And the newer Brownell mags do come with this Magpul style anti-tilt follower, which is nice. And then, of course, you can get some GI mags that you don't even need to upgrade the follower. These gold or yellow ones seem to work very well in both my AR and my CETME. This one I did throw on one of those little Markle L Ranger plates. But that's how that one looks. A little less worn than my other mag. And then, of course, there's a wide variety of different colors. I've got an OK Industries mag here, which is flat dark earth added on the L plate. Flat dark earth, as you can see, these L's, or roller delays in general, are very, very dirty. Kind of like the way that looks. That one looks really good in the all green LC I have. So just kind of, you know, there is some originality. If you don't like having a mag look exactly like your next mag, you can very easily get plenty of Stenag mags, and they can very easily all look different. And let's see, and then of course C Products offers them in a wide variety of colors. I have this red for some reason. That looks absolutely hideous in this gun. Then we also got this green. It doesn't look too bad. Doesn't quite match the green that's on the gun. But these C Product mags work very well. Never had any issues with them. Like I said, they're like $8. The OK Industry mags, I think those were more like 12 or 15. They're just a little bit more. And then I've got a mixture. This is a mixture of steel and aluminum mags. They all do seem to work just fine. And then, of course, I got the fancy green with the tiger stripes on it. I got this from AIM Surplus. I'm not sure if AIM is the one that does the laser etching on them, but they've got like a wide variety of different designs, and they all do seem to be the C Products style mags. So once again, wide availability. Now, people seem to get very upset when these don't use the Magpul mags. Now, there are pictures I've seen of people filing down the front lugs on the Magpul mags so that they will fit. You can modify a Magpul mag to fit in these. The thing is, though, is the polymer feed lips on the Magpul mags, and I believe Markle Mar was the one saying that this was their concern, is that heavy bolt carrier on the L is just, it's not going to have a long life. Like, it will work, but it's not going to last as long as it would, you know, just regular use in an AR. But fret's not, because you're just dead set on using a modern polymer mag. The Lancers Gen 2s, which do have metal feed lips, will fit in these and function just fine. They follow the profile of the Stenag mag close enough. And they also make these in 20 round mags. They make a little mag extension. I don't know if it's 3 or 5 round mags, but they do rounds, but they do make a mag extension. And then, of course, there are some Stenag mags out there that are 40 rounds. Those I've actually been looking for. Haven't had the best of luck. I did find one, and it gets in there so freaking tight. I mean, I have to completely give it all my force to get it to come out of the gun, and that's both on the Gen 1 L and my Gen 2 LC. This 40 rounder, which I will never put in these guns again because I'm scared it won't come out. It's made by ASC. They don't have the best reputation. This is their newer style follower. Very mixed reviews from them. But my experience was don't bother buying one of those because you might not get it back out of the gun. But like I said, these Lancer mags, I think they look pretty good, especially this black one here. These will work just fine. And personally, I do kind of like the Lancer mags a little bit more than the Magpul mags. Not that the Magpul mags aren't good, but it's not like that's the only 5.56 mag that functions. So I think the fuss that people make over that is way bigger than it needs to be. You won't have an issue finding a magazine that works in your CETME L. So if you're a little reluctant about getting this because you're like, oh, I'm concerned about finding mags that will work, it's not hard. Like I said, out of all the mags I've purchased, other than the ASC one, and then and actually the ASC one, the bolt, I know the bolt closed on the LC. It might not have closed on this one. But then the 20 round Korean mag, like I said, that worked in the LC, but just it didn't work in this one. So those are the only two mags out of all these that I purchased, and I've got way more too. Like I don't have actually the black OK Industry mags that this came with out here. I've got a lot more surplus mags. Surplus mags from OK, Colt, both of the Parsons, Kansas manufacturing names that they used. Wide variety. They work just fine. And I even have some off-brand steel mags that work in here. So don't let the mag difference scare you away. And now, like I said, if you're wanting to make it unique and very different from the other L out there, that is the downfall of these guns. You can get them Cerakoted in the original green. Not necessarily the original green, it's a slightly different shade, but the original style color. Black, gray, and flat dark earth. The color options Markle Mar has for you on their new furniture is green, black, and flat dark earth. And you can order them directly from Markle Mar with whatever kind of color combo you want. As far as aftermarket stuff out there, it just really doesn't exist. The flash hiders are a unique thread pitch, so you're kind of stuck with your options of the original full bird cage or the 3-prong. And I have seen some companies put out versions for states where you can't have quote unquote flash hider. This style kind of looks like the 3-prong with the full bird cage, but they don't have all the openings, so they don't count as a flash hider. So if you live in one of those states, there is, at least one company out there making something for you so you can put something on there. And I have seen images online of people getting what looks like just thread adapters. I saw one with a thread adapter, and it looked like a AR, it was A1 or A2 bird cage with the, wasn't a full bird cage, had the bottom closed off. Looked a little goofy, it was a little bit long, but that is something that you can do. And then, of course, if you do get an adapter for the AR muzzle device thread pitch, holy cow! Your options are endless at that point. You can put a brake, many styles of brakes, many style of flash hider, compensator, whatever. If you want to suppress these, that is something that you can do. Markle Mar does recommend changing out the locking piece and the bolt. I do not know if that's something that is necessary or just recommended, but they do offer those locking pieces on their website if you want to change that out. Handguards, like I said, you're just kind of stuck with the original colors. And then you do have these full-length ones. These aren't the best because in my videos I talked about and showed you, they're pretty freaking brittle and fragile. And actually, this is my second one. The first one I broke. It was still functional. It bugged the hell out of me. And Markle Mar still had them at the time, and I knew they wouldn't have them forever. They only got 200. So I just went ahead and ordered this one. And then I sent that first one off to Ian McCollum at Forgotten Weapons. So if you've seen his video on the full-length handguard, that's me. I'm the guy that broke it. Anyhow, so you have that option. Like I said, it's not the best option. I put it on here just because unique. It really does change the look of the gun. And then RS Regulate also does make a M-LOK handguard for this. It is sold exclusively through Markle Mar, so you cannot get it through RS Regulate. You got to go through Markle Mar. And I see a lot of people talk about how, they've all sold out and, they're looking all over on the secondary market. Just be patient. Wait. RS Regulate, I think they only spit them out in batches of 200. And I think they do it like 2 or 3 times a year. So, I don't know if you can sign up for notifications, but if you just go back and check the Markle Mar website or just email them, they're very responsive with emails. They'll let you know when they're expecting the next batch of those. So, if you got to find one, they're currently out of stock. Don't worry, they are continuing to make them, but just in small batches. Hopefully, they'll start to make more with the batches, because I think the last time Markle Mar got them, I think they sold out like within a week. They sold out pretty quick. So you do have that option on the front handguard. Now, in some of my other videos on the CETME L, I do mention a company called Madison Firearms that was kind of starting up and looking at making a handguard and a pistol grip for these. And it does appear that that company is no longer together. Looks like it's 2 different guys, and they've kind of split off to do their own things. One of them I've been in contact with, and I guess he got stuck with all of the their post-production or early production versions of handguards and pistol grips. And I do not have them yet, but I'm working on getting one of the handguards and one of the pistol grips. Because he does have 2 different style pistol grips. It looks like 2 different versions of handguards. I think it was just like early production and later production. They're just playing around. But he was making the handguards in like kind of different angles and thicknesses, which I am pushing him to try to continue on production of at least the handguards, because I do think there's a big market on there, in the CETME L community, which is kind of limited, because no one's making a different style pistol grip, and these do come back quite a bit. On ARs, I definitely do tend to prefer the more vertical ones. For me, though, this one's very comfortable. If you've ever shot a Zastava AK, this grip is kind of a pretty close copy of that. But it's not a bad grip, even though it is angled. But I like the fact that he was making an option for you to change, those grips out if you wanted to. So, hopefully those will show up. I will definitely do a follow-up video on those, even though they're not really available anymore, or ever really were. But I'm going to talk to him about getting, what information of his I can publicly release to you guys, so that you have a way of contacting him. Because he kind of agreed with me on the pistol grips and was really kind of pushing that heavy. And then, of course, the handguard sounds like it's just going to be too complicated for him to do it. And also with RS Regulate now making a handguard, I feel like that will kind of take away from some of the need for it. But at the same time, they're selling out quick, so who knows. But anyway, so I might have a video to show you guys on that. Even though it's not really available now. But hopefully we can stir up some thirst for those pistol grips, and hopefully we can get them to make some of those pistol grips in different options. Buttstock, you're pretty much stuck with it. Like I said, this is a new production one. Markle Mar does put on a new butt pad as well. Not that you really need it. Again, the collapsible stock from the LC will not work on your L. The internals are different. And then I also see a lot of people talking about putting buttstocks from an HK 93 or putting on wood furniture from a CETME C. It's not going to fit. It's not going to work unless you do like some hardcore major modifications to that. And then really the last complaint I have seen on these is the trigger pull. These don't have the best trigger pull. It's a military issue gun. They typically don't. But once again, I feel like people blow this one at least a little out of proportion to what it really is. Also, I might be a little biased on this because if you watch my channel, you know that's what I collect is military surplus. So I'm used to crappy triggers. It is a little bit heavy though. When I first got this, I remember it kind of being grimy too, and that bugged me. Like a heavy trigger I can deal with, but one that's all grimy, not so much. And I don't know if it just needed to be cleaned and oiled or if it was just through shooting it. But that did seem to clear up completely. I don't feel like there's any grime to this. The trigger pull did seem to lighten up a little bit. I've seen some people say that they've weighed their triggers and they come in at like 12 and 13 pounds. I don't feel like this one was that heavy brand new. Um, so I don't feel like it lightened up that much because I don't feel like it was that much or that heavy to begin with. But what we can do, I've got the bolt out of this one, so I don't want to really dry fire it, but we've got our LC here. We are clear. Safety is off. We will do an on-camera trigger pull test to show you guys just how heavy or unheavy the trigger is. And like I said, it's not the best trigger. I think it's going to be between like 5 and 6 pounds. But to me, for a military trigger, I mean, like, that's not bad at all. So we'll do just a few trigger pulls. I'm not going to do a whole bunch. And, oh, why do you already have some weight on you? And it's been a while since I used this one. Ready? Okay. Oh, let me get you in frame there. So that one came out to 7 pounds, 14 ounces. We'll just go ahead and say 8 pounds. So, like I said, not super light, but it's not 15 pounds. We'll do it again. £7, 14 ounces again. So it is a heavy trigger, but it's nothing ridiculous, you know. I do feel like my L, you would have to go back and watch my video when I do the trigger pull test. I think this one might have been a little bit lighter than what my LC was, but once again, I've shot a lot more rounds in the L compared to the LC, so that might come into play there. So, should you buy one of these? I think absolutely yes. It's a functional gun. It's not just a novelty, but at the same time, it kind of also is a novelty. You definitely, every time I've taken this gun out, it definitely turns head, whether I have the original handguard on it or this one, or if it's my LC. People always become very curious about it. The fun part is people always think they know what it is, and they never do. I've had people call it a Daewoo, FNC, AK, HK, pretty much everything than what it's supposed to be, except for one guy that worked at the shooting range saw it one day. He's like, "Yeah, hey, that's one of those new L's." So he earned himself a golden star that day. So it's fun in that aspect. If you have friends that are into firearms, you can usually stump them if you pull one of these out, especially if it's not in the green, because people always know it for that green color. And then even if you do get it in the green, it looks like a crazy looking gun. It seems to be accurate. I'm not a sharpshooter or anything. They do come with cold hammer forged barrels that are nitride finish. There's not a chrome lining in these ones, but they do have that nitride finish. The barrels I do know, Markle Mar does not make them themselves. They have someone else make them, and they've said who makes them. I completely forget, but if you ask them, they'll let you know. So, as a target shooter, it's very fun. And as a collector, not only does this have a very unique history of, a gun that came out that was kind of hated by Spain, only roller delayed, designed from the ground up for 5.56. There's not that many in the country. It's not that they're unicorns, but it's not like, a Wasser AK. It's definitely a unique firearm. But also, the shooting impulse is very unique in itself. Now, if you've ever fired an HK, a roller delay, or a CETME C, they kind of have that very mechanical recoil impulse to them. This has that, but it goes a step further because it is so freaking soft. I mean, I thought my HK93 was really soft recoiling. This thing's got to be softer. Someday I'll take out all my roller delays and my piston-driven AR. We'll do a comparison, but I'm pretty sure this one's going to win. And the way this is designed, too, from what I understand, is the bolt carrier never comes to like a dead stop. It never hits a wall. That spring never bottoms out. So it's a very smooth recoil impulse, which is also great if you're someone that likes to take new shooters out. This is a great rifle for new shooters because it's a very soft recoil impulse. The few times I've been at the shooting range and people started, asking me questions about it and offered to let them shoot it, and that's one thing I always mention. I'm like, it's really fun to shoot because it's got a very soft, unique recoil impulse, and every single time, they're like, they will comment on that, how soft it is to shoot. So unique in its history, unique in its look, and just unique in its, in one firing it. For collectors, I think that's a no-brainer. Now, at the same time, it's not necessarily for everyone. I want to make clear that this is not some kind of be-all awesome gun. I think a lot of times guns get this hype around them. The Mosin Nagant 9130 is a perfect one. People are like, oh, you can shoot anything with that. Super accurate. It's not super accurate. I will give it this. It's super accurate for what it is. A garbage rod. And I love Mosins, don't get me wrong. So I can see this kind of falling in that class too. This is not any better than an AR-15. This is worse than an AR-15. I'm not going to lie to you, but that's not saying it's a bad gun. It has its place in a collection. Now, if you're just getting into shooting and you don't have a rifle at all and you want to get a all-purpose rifle, while this could do the job, an AR-15 would do the job much better. You could get one for cheaper. They're lighter. The availability of aftermarket products is infinite on those. So if you want to customize it, you have no issues doing that. But at the same time, if you're like kind of bummed out and I just said that, and you're someone that wants to get their first kind of all-around rifle, but you don't want an AR, you don't want an AK, you want something unique, and if you want something with a possibility of going up in value, which these definitely will over time, this will get the job done. This isn't an absolute no for those people, but just know, getting into it, you do have limitations. And especially looking at the price point. I know during COVID, these were actually a better deal than an AR, because like even the cheapest Bear Creek Arsenal AR was going for like $900. Markle Mar never raised the price on these. These were still $1,200 at the time. So for a few more bucks, you're getting a way more unique rifle, one that will go up in value. Of course, now things have calmed down. I think Bear Creek Arsenal is running their $350 sales on their ARs again, or at least $450. And even, I'm not saying go and get a Bear Creek Arsenal. People will blow up the comments with that. But just as an example, right now the market's calmed down. The price on these is still like around $1,200. You can get an AR that's better for quite a bit cheaper. But if you want that uniqueness, this will get the job done. Like I said, it's going to be a little bit heavier. But if you're willing to get a little extra weight, you don't really care about making it super unique or your own, and you're fine with the way they come, it definitely will get the job done. And like I said, Markle Mar is going to make at most 8,000 out of the parts kits they received. And once they run out, the value is going to go up. And I definitely feel like this is going to be one of those rifles that when that happens, people are going to be like, man, I used to see those everywhere. No one wanted them. My gun shops couldn't get rid of them. And now they're twice the price or whatever. I definitely think this will end up being that eventually. I don't know how soon that will be. Also, just so everyone knows, and they don't get mad at me buying one of these and then they find out Markle Mar is going into full-on US-made production. That is something Markle Mar said that they would do if the demand is high enough. These have definitely gained more in popularity, but it's not like everyone's talking about them. So whether or not the demand will ever be there, I don't know. So it's definitely not a guaranteed thing. I believe when Markle Mar purchased the parts kits from Spain, they also purchased all the technical data as well. And let's say they do go into production, these are using a whole bunch of parts that Markle Mar already has and is not having to make themselves. So that right there, what would that do to the price point? Would that make it more expensive? And then from a collector's view, collectors always want the guns that come with these surplus military parts on them. Even looking at the Romanian Wasser, they make them brand new for the American market, semi-auto out of the factory. But if you get one that's made with a parts kits from one of the original military issued ones, the collectability is way higher on those, and so is the value. So I could see something like that translating over to the CETME L as well. And then if Markle Mar did go into full-on production, I could see them doing different things like, making a full top rail, going away from the original design. I could see them kind of furthering the evolution of this gun, which would be pretty freaking fun to see what they could do with it. I do know they are currently testing out a 300 Blackout. They've been talking about that for a while. A couple months ago, they shared a picture of a receiver that was marked 300 Blackout, and they're like, we're now going into the testing phase or something like that. They did offer a few carbines with the LC barrels, but the traditional L buttstock and recoil system. I think that is because they sold out all of the LC kits, which was 650 is I think the total number they ended up making. And I think they just had some extra barrels. And the SBRs of these with the fixed stock, they look pretty cool. But they did offer a few of those. Obviously, you've got to have your tax stamp and all that stuff ready from the get-go. From what I've seen, they haven't offered those with the barrel extensions like they do the LC, so you can buy it as a regular rifle and then SBR if you want to go that route. One point in time, they were also talking about making a pistol version of this. It's going to have the LC style end cap and a kind of AR style arm brace. I haven't heard anything about that, and if you've been watching the politics in the news on arm braces, I'm sure you know why. They're probably just kind of waiting to see what happens and wait until everything blows over. Also, once again, I'm not sure if they're making those with surplus LC kits or if they're doing an all-American made LC setup, because you would have to do the LC setup since you don't have a buttstock, so you have to have that recoil spring in there. So I was also very curious to kind of see exactly how they're going to go about that. So they are some different versions of this that hopefully will be coming out in the near future. So that's on top of the 8,000 Ls that they'll be making. So in the long run, yes, I think this is definitely worth your purchase. It's not for everyone, but at the same time, I'm not saying, you have to have an AR or an AK before you buy one of these. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying, know what you're getting into with one of these. This is not a god gun. This is not something that's, stupid super accurate or anything like that. It's just a very cool, unique looking and unique firing gun. So, that concludes this video, guys. Go buy a Markle Mar CETME L. Alright. If you like this video, please consider liking and or subscribing. Stay safe and stay shiny.